huge solar panels in the middle of the countryside in Cantabria. Their surveyor once thought he was close to realizing a dream, sustaining a decent lifestyle while producing his own electricity.
Esto que veis aquí,
this is my solar park. It was supposed to be my source of energy, but it's been the source of all my troubles.
Fuente de pesadillas.
In 2007, Thessa spent €1 million on 6 solar panels. At the time, the socialist government encouraged citizens to invest in solar energy, promising
Olha, com a habilidade da Kate.
I'm looking around this place and I'm starting to work.
Reverter extrapolação de digestão.
Reverse digestion extrapolation. Time to meet your maker.
What are you guys doing? Did you develop an app?
Rule number 1 in app development, son. Never follow the rules.
Except when the rule is tattooed on an alien's forehead, Dad! Why do you think Rick would have that rule?
Because he's a disruptive-o.
No, Dad, no! To keep something horrible from happening! lazy to explain!
Guys, we're getting our first users.
Whoa, this new app just matched me with a guy that is my type. Super my type, learn to abri.
Hey! Your Sue Tai works at Jersey Mike's and sees 25 fish shows a year.
That is so Danny.
Summer!
Danny?
Summer Smith!
Danny Booblets from Love Finders with 2 R's and a Z?
I ran all the way here while staring at your profile. I tripped on a fire hydrant and fell down, so I'm covered in gravel that stuck to my sweat, and even after a shower, I'll still be into a jam band for old junkies. But I think this world cares too much about bands and too little about love. And I think I love you.
Me too.
Hi, I'm my underage daughter's mother. Nice to... Whoa! Come on! Just met!
This isn't working.
Wait, what are you... Never mind.
I quit, I'm gay, and I love Xander.
Stupid phones are destroying us.
Hey, sweetie.
Honey, our daughter ran off with a frisbee golfer because of some app with a really dumb, really forgettable name. Like a really dumb, uncreative, super sweaty name. Anyway, I'll be late. I love you.
Got it. I love you too. Okay, Gluty, take the app down.
Can I take it down? I'm just an intern. That's not how apps work.
Then make it how it works!
This isn't how making things works.
Get it off the server! You think we're stupid, but we're not. We know apps have something to do with servers.
The server's on the mothership.
Where's the mothership?
It's coming.
Take us to it.
No.
Yes, shake it more, Morty. That was working.
Take us to the mothership!
Okay, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
An ominous beeping app. You can't stay mad at a guy with this kind of talent.
Dad, you can and you have to!
Ribbit, 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 ribbit. Hey, ribbit, 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 ribbit.
Look at this guy. He wants to eat me so bad. You want to eat me, don't you?
Ribbit.
Just kidding. Have some drugs.
Are you Vermigerber?
What does this guy want? Who's this monkey?
I'm here about a sandwich.
Oh, well, you came to the right place. Because you're about to get a bullet sandwich on 2 slices of whole gun.
You might want to get that.
Hello?
Dad, give the human whatever he wants. He knows where I live. He's crazy.
You idiot. I have 800,000 kids.
Don't forget your voicemail.
You have 470,000 messages.
Oh, that's half of them. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? Wait, this is seriously about sandwiches? I thought this was about drugs or guns or the fact that I'm a fly that runs a frog restaurant. There's a million things that are interesting about me and none of them are sandwiches.
Who ordered it?
Talk to our delivery drone. He run off to fight in the robot wars. Hey, Ape Man, I hope this was worth making a whole swarm of enemies.
It will be when I find whoever shit in my toilet.
Is that code for something? Someone look that up. If that's drug slang, I need to know it.
Mom, you can't stop true love.
Oh, yes, I can.
You're assaulting me.
Keep your voice down.
I'm being assaulted.
Oh, yeah, okay. Statutory rape.
Whoa.
My daughter's about to be raped.
No, I'm not. I'm being assaulted.
Rape.
Assault.
Rape.
Nobody cares. It's a motel. Nobody's here because their life's going so great they can afford to get mixed up in yours. Deal with this shit on your own.
You can't stop us from getting a motel room.
Fine, I'll get one too. I'm getting the one next door, and I'm putting a glass to the wall and I'm listening.
Fine. Enjoy.
I will.
I'm Danny, by
You
the
had
way.
your chance, Dick.
Take your app down!
Take it down.
What?
I'm their hostage.
Do they have weapons?
Nope, but neither do I.
Do you have a weapon?
No.
Take the app down!
I can't. I'm an intern.
Okay, well, who tells interns what to do?
Not you, that's for sure.
Take us to whoever does. Or we'll punch you.
Okay.
Not bad, Morty.
Yeah, I don't know when the other shoe's gonna drop, but this is working pretty good so far.
Greetings. We are the Monogatrons. While your species was still toying with fire, ours mastered the science of functioning, committed relationships. As the latest planet to develop our app, you will now witness the true power of superior intimacy.
Take the app down.
Take it down, or we'll punch you.
Is there someone with a gun, or...
It's on its way.
The app remains up.
So what's the evil plan?
Does there have to be an evil plan?
Oh,
Someone Someone wanted a gun?
I'll take it, thanks.
Here's the evil plan.
God damn it!
As a pre-app civilization, your love's value is defined by scarcity. You are highly trained to seek it, and you have no idea how to maintain it. Had you bothered to master love, you would have learned by now it is as abundant as water. You know what isn't? Water. That runs out. So we'll be taking yours, while your planet continues to dick around with it. What is their version of it called?
Love Finders with 2 hours and a Z.
If.
Yeah, not my idea.
God damn.
Am I interrupting?
Impossible. Here she is.
Your prisoners are getting away.
Prisoners, they're just things. Connect with me. Tell me about your day.
I had an incredible meeting. Did you know humans are 80% water? And I found a new podcast we can listen to tonight.
Love it. Okay, back to work. Find and kill those Earthlings!
We're outnumbered. There's no hope. Then we go out in glory. Flesh intruder, prepare to die.
Oh, hold on.
My apologies, Lieutenant Commander.
No problem. At ease, soldier. Initiate employee evaluation mode.
Accessing delivery archive.
Okay, listen, you delivered an avian protein club sandwich with no lettuce. God damn it! I know you want to have the big guy, little guy fight, but are you kidding me?
Here at the Midland Quasar, we're in a complete upset. The revolution has overturned the lizards. It's totally unacceptable.
I understand, Mr. Phillips. Yes.
I believe this is yours. You dropped that.
I'll have to call you back.
Where do you want to die?
Susan, it's conference room 3 available. Can I look at a photo of my wife while you kill me?
Sure, but I'm doing her a favor. She either has terrible taste or she's trapped in a marriage to a toilet thief.
She's dead. I don't mind joining her. Life has been hollow since I lost her. Using your toilet was nice, though. I'm a bit of a shy pooper. I'm ready when you are.
Stay there. Tell him what you told me.
What is this? What's happening?
Tell him what you told me.
My wife's still alive. She went into remission 10 years ago.
What did you do today?
Oh, I pooped on a really awesome toilet I found.
Oh! Oh! Don't use your dead wife as an excuse. You shit on my toilet because you don't know your place. And your place is nothing. So next time you stumble onto a toilet that feels too good for your ass, trust me, it is.
You're not gonna kill me?
Don't tell me what to do! Are you f***ing kidding me? Oh, so you like being alive. So why the f*** are you back here?
After you left, I thought about what you said and how much I needed to hear it. But then I thought about why you were saying it, who you were really saying it to. You need the same thing I needed, Rick. You need someone to give you permission to live.
What the? I thought you were a shy pooper.
You know what shy pooping is, Rick? It's a pointless bid for control. You want to take the one part of life that you truly think is yours, and you want to protect it from a universe that takes whatever it wants. It took my wife. It clearly took something from you. We can spend our lives fighting that, or we can choose to be free.
You're right, Tony. I'm done fighting. Time to be free.
Oh, wait, you're actually gonna... Oh, God! Oh, God. Where am I?
Hi, little mouse.
Hey, BB. I missed you so much.
I never really left you.
then you'd know that a few years ago I started getting into...
Strap-on porn? Yes. I thought it was hot. Now, come on.
Where are you going?
To poop.
Where?
Wherever you want. Forever.
My God.
You rang. I'm pooping too.
Come, Tony, come on. Come poop with me. Poop with me, Tony. Poop with me.
What are you waiting for? Aren't you gonna join us, Tony? Aren't you gonna join us in the poopin'?
Where are we? What is this?
That's it, get out.
You can make a perfectly realized toilet-filled simulation of heaven, but you can't share a toilet.
Don't insult my craft. The chemical is globofin. It connects the whatever you want section of your brain to the whatever you have section. If your heaven is toilets, that's on you.
All of these people
Are living their wildest, meaningless dreams and leaving me out of them.
people you refuse to kill and refuse to let into your life.
An offer you rejected, so here's your last chance. Goodbye forever. If you touch my toilet again, you die.
You need a friend.
I have a million cooler friends than you.
I'll be seeing you.
You'll be dying.
We're gonna be friends.
You're gonna be dead.
Okay, so we fight our way to the gas line, we cut it, and then we set a fire.
Okay, all right.
Morty, Adventures of Jerry and Morty, huh? Put her there.
Dad, look, you know, we don't need a high five. It's kind of your fault that we're in this situation at all.
I know, but, you know, come on. Adventures of Jerry and Morty.
Okay. Mwah.
Jeff, I can explain everything.
You don't have to. Can you just marry us instead?
Jeff, don't do it!
Richard.
Maggie!
Running bird!
Let's get out of here.
Priest Witherspoon!
Josiah?
Let's get the out of here.
Summer Smith, let's get the hell out of here.
You had me at my own name. Oh, yeah, no, why would I?
Summer! A f***ing thing? Come on, I can't steer this!
What in the hell are you doing?
Parenting.
That's not how I did it.
Yeah, where's your daughter?
You're right. She joined ISIS.
It's Gluty. And he's had a change of heart. And he's going to set us free.
Actually, he's been blamed for bringing you aboard and assigned to execute you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. What would your girlfriend think of you murdering?
I happen to be between relationships right now.
Really? I thought your species had perfected relationships. Here.
We're not allowed to use those apps.
I wonder why. That's what I thought, Gluty. Looks like you and I are all we got.
I'm not helping you any more than that, but if you can find the hangar, grab a ship and get the hell out of here.
Where are you going, Gluty?
I've got a date. We're dumping a dating app.
Glue-doo-doo.
Was that ever his thing?
No.
He never exited that way.
No, first time. Dad, I want to say something. I started today disgusted and embarrassed to be your son. And then later I thought we were gonna die because you're a loser.
There's no more, is
Nope.
there?
Now quit f***ing up and let's go. Is Tony here? I brought him some vegan fiber chili. Delicious family recipe. And a box of these chocolates, sugar-free. He can eat as many of these as he wants. Anyways, just wanted to drop these off, and you tell him the toilet's all his. He'll know what I mean.
Tony died.
Excuse me?
He quit his job, started living life to the fullest. He crashed into a tree space skiing down Mount Space Everest.
There's a Mount Space Everest? Okay, Jesus, I gotta process this. Oh, no, you don't want to eat that. You'll become the opening of the Beverly Hillbillies. You know what I'm saying? Little bubbling crude Texas tea.
I don't know these references.
Yeah, but you have a Space Everest. Watch Space Beverly Hillbillies so my jokes can land, you
Now what?
Happily ever after.
And after that?
We'll find out. Together.
Summer, how many soulmates is that in the last week?
4. You can't stop me from loving who I love, Mom.
Oh, the
I can't. I'm gonna mother you until your 18th birthday, even if I get thrown in prison for non-consensual mothering. And even then, I will break out, come to your house, kick down your door, and mother your face out of your stupid asshole.
I'm gonna daughter your brains out, bitch.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Give me that new soulmate. Adwall. This.
What, they want us to pay for it now?
Come on, Mom. Let's go home.
Great. We lost Earth.
We are defined by what we do, and we only need each other.
Each other and water.
There's no water.
Honey, the whole point of conquering Earth
I know the point of conquering Earth. Don't talk to me like
I'm thirsty.
Like I'm your mother, you childish prick. How much water are you sucking through these stupid tubes
These
on your
tubes
back?
are cool, and I want a divorce.
You can have one for a glass of goddamn water.
Look, on the off chance that you use the app and there's someone out there waiting for you,
Jerry, I didn't use it. Did you?
Me? No. God, of course not.
Well, then we're all good, dog.
Hey, Tony's dad. This is, 8 billion in your local currency, and, this is a kid. You can use a clone, new son. He won't have the same brain. He'll kind of be an animal man, but you can teach him stuff. I also wanted to let you know I did explore infinite universes, and there is a version of Tony that was completely evil and ended up causing a lot of genocide because of how fulfilled he was. So really, a lot of ways of looking at this is not much of a loss.
I understand. It's hard losing a friend.
You.
What?
He's not my friend. There he is! There's our guy! Congrats, Tony! Have fun with your stupid toilet that you get to use all by yourself now. Enjoy using it all by yourself while you sit there and think about how nobody wants to be around you and how you ruined it for yourself because you're a huge piece of shit. Look at you sitting there, king shit on his throne of loneliness. Enjoy this toilet with 1,000 of me screaming every time you take a shit. All hail his majesty, the saddest piece of garbage in the entire cosmos. Long live the big bad doo-doo daddy. May his reign last 1,000 years. Rick, I'm not rated to climb something this sheer. Look, you're the guy that wanted an epic adventure. I'm the guy with only one hover chair. God damn it, an alien spider just bit my finger. It's an alien cliff. You can just say spider. You couldn't do that an hour ago? I was eating and you're dirty. Activate anti-booby suits. Total waste of snakes. If you want to take a beat to acknowledge the sacred atmosphere, it could give the cynical grave robbing a hint of irreverence. No, I'm good. All right then, let's loot this corpse. Hey, where's the... Wait, what? Is that an origami horse? It's a calling card from my...
Fun. That's what I'm talking about. Keep it moving. Don't ask why I can talk.
Uh-huh.
For sure. For sure.
Where are we going?
Quantum radiator might need some nano water. We can stretch our legs. So, why can you talk?
What is this?
I need you in one spot for a clean mind scan.
Mind scan? Look, you're overthinking it. The point of a talking cat is to have fun.
Find the insinuation that I can't ask questions and have fun condescending. You find it condescending, Jerry?
Yes.
All right, I'm from outer space. Happy?
No.
Exactly, because no answer would be satisfying.
Because it's a lie. Let's see the truth. What in the... Oh, son of a bitch! Jerry, don't!
I want to see.
No, you do not!
No, no.
At least now, maybe
Get the hell out of here!
But I've got nowhere to
Get
go!
out! Get out! Get out!
He was in my home, where I keep photos of my parents!
Jerry, I have a device. It can make us forget.
No, I don't think we should forget. Not this. Someone has to remember.
Someone will.
Did we crash? Where's the cat?
He ran away.
Did you scan his brain?
Yeah.
Did you find out why he can talk?
He's from outer space.
Outer space? That little... Of course. Total mind
Morty, be sure to pee before we go. This adventure's gonna be a long haul, and I don't feel like emptying the jug. Jerry, will you please just let me automate this task?
I didn't ask for anyone's help. You two are welcome to leave.
Mom told me she wanted me to stay here to make sure you didn't die.
Will you tell your mother that I'm gonna be fine?
Don't train your child to lie, Jerry, even though, you know, 'tis the season.
Then I'll tell her. Whoa! Whoa! I told you no more rays. What ray did you zap me with?
I made your atomic matrix slightly lighter than air. And now your shoes are heavier than air, which makes you neutrally buoyant, which I find personally more impressive conceptually than walking on water. But what do I know? I wasn't born into the god business. I earned it.
Whoa! Just to be clear, this doesn't mean you helped me.
It wears off in 10 hours, and the next hit will cost you $30.
Like I'll even be using it in 10 hours. Siri set a 9-hour and 50-minute timer.
I need to pee. Nope. Here, I got a centipede you can swallow that makes you not have to go. I ain't swallowing no centipede. What, you think the centipede wants to eat your pee? You're not the victim in this transaction. Uh-oh, flat tire. How the hell do you get a flat tire in space, Rick? Obviously from a sharp thing in space, Morty. It's just crazy how much it feels like hitting a regular flat. Oh, no, that's just my custom-programmed, fully immersive flat tire indication experience. I could turn it off. I thought it was cooler than the celebrity voice package, but here.
Flat tire. You should be walking.
Oof. Yeah. Can I come out with you, Rick? No, I've seen this movie. Two guys leave the ship, one guy goes spinning away. You're staying in here where it's safe. Morty, god damn it! Come on, I never get to be out here! Ugh, you young people think space is like Saturday Night Live. You see it every day, so you dream of being in it. But it dreams of removing all the air from your body and making you float around it for eternity as a flash mummified corpse, which is also what space wants, so get back in the car! I'm not in danger, there's nothing out here! Literally everything is out here, and unlike everywhere else, I'm too busy to help you. Right, because you're always so helpful! God damn it. What is that? Obviously, it's a space snake. There's snakes in space? There's literally everything in space, Morty! Now get the back in the car! See the Black Mountain. People who are really dying don't keep bringing it up. Is that true? I don't know. I'm just usually around people that die faster. All right. Just let me analyze the snake's planet so I can whip up an anti-venom. Computer, you might want to put a rush on this. Morty's starting to look like a 90s Japanese ghost.
Cutting corners.
Oof. Oh my god. These snakes are a mess. 19 billion snakes divided into 10,000 nations, all on the brink of global war over... Oh! Race? How funny is that? Imagine being a racist snake. Hey, other snake, I hate you because you're the wrong color snake. Oh my god. You're not laughing? Oh, you're dying. It's a miracle they were able to fling one this far out before they slithered into extinction.
Oh God, you killed their... What's his name? Their Buzz Aspirin?
It's actually Buzz Advil, Morty, and this is totally different. It's a female snake. There's an extra layer of heartbreak. Oh, wait, Morty, you hear that? Listen. Snake jazz. Ha, idiots. Let's get moving. We got a long way to go, and I'm not sharing that centipede.
Rick, wait, go back. I can't be the reason why 19 billion snakes lost all hope.
That's right, Morty. Only 19 billion snakes can do that. That species was never getting beyond this stage. To paraphrase the great Jeff Foxworthy, if you bite your first contact on its ankle, you might be a Type 0 civilization neck.
What up, homies? Shooting hoops, I see. Hey, who's interested in a friendly bet that this white guy can jump?
Hey, leave the racial stuff off the court, okay?
Oh, I thought that kind of talk was part of street ball.
Well, now it's part of everything else, so chill.
We got off on the wrong foot. My name's Jerry Smith. I live in the suburbs. I'm only here because I have a certain power I wanted to kind of celebrate before it goes away.
Yo, we got a Nazi up here.
Hey, I think there's a misunderstanding. Here, just watch. Huh? Oh.
Help! Help! I need that shoe!
No, don't touch that shoe or that money. Let them be a powerful but confusing monument to our neighborhood's integrity.
Whoa, boy, what an adventure, huh? Hey, Morty, listen. I can tell you're pretty upset about the whole snake encounter thing, so I'll tell you what. I'm just gonna go ahead and avoid you for the rest of the day.
Play snake jazz. Is this one friendly?
It's a snake.
You ever see this one look up at the sky like it's dreaming of something more?
No, but all those ones marked with the red sticker? Yeah, any snake over $50 yearns for the beyond. I've seen them do it.
Ow! Damn it, Slippy! Come on! Ow! Just please! I'm sorry!
Everyone has a plumbus in their home. First, they take the dinglebot.
Ow! F***ing monster!
Downbeat.
How do you win this game?
We've never gotten that far.
Guys, did I not tell you to keep your eye on Jerry?
We did.
Then where is he?
Maybe he's having an affair.
But for real, has anyone seen him?
Grandpa, did you trap him in a painting again?
I didn't do shit.
Well, you made him floaty.
Asshole.
Made him floaty?
I saved his life by making his body slightly lighter than air, and it expires in a couple of hours.
Expires, like he'll fall out of the sky.
He won't be in the sky, Beth, unless it's possible for Jerry to f up wearing shoes. Oh crap, he's
What
gonna
were you
die.
thinking?
Hey, babe!
Jerry, are you in the air? Rick told me he made you floaty.
Made me floaty. Gotta love Rick's worldview. Yes, I had Rick make me floaty so I could put up some lights. Now I'm at the light store.
Get away!
Sorry, this lady at the store is trying to peck me. Yes, you can help me find lights after I'm off the phone.
We're in Rick's ship. How about we just pick you up?
You're with Rick?
Well, why wouldn't I?
Jerry, I paused Beth with a device Christopher Walken gave me after a record session. Real talk, buddy. Where you at?
Go to hell, Rick.
Come on, Jerry. I can recognize the sound of a seagull.
Can you recognize the sound of a man's pants filling up with rain?
I hope to one day. Jerry, I'll tell you what. Because it's Christmas, I'm gonna do you a favor. I won't let you die, and I won't tell Beth that you almost killed yourself.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
Come again?
If I survive, it'll be without you. And if I die, it'll be on your ass. Merry Christmas, bitch.
I am the Jesus Christ of Christmas!
I'd be with him. We both care. Whoa. Jerry?
Yes, honey?
Let us just come get you.
Beth, I am so touched that you care for me this much, but I'm fine, and I just want to put up these Christmas lights, and I will eat your world.
Honey, my dad can hear you.
Gotta go. See you soon.
Okay. Well, it sounds like he's fine.
Yeah, I'm almost kind of rooting for him this time.
One Diet Sprite remix, please. And, is anyone here an Uber driver?
You can't bring that boulder in here.
What?
I said no boulders. This ain't the lake, buddy.
Well, it's kind of a service boulder. I float without it.
Big man holding a big rock. Think you can take me down?
No, obviously not. You're huge.
Then put it down.
If I put it down, I'm going to float. And frankly, your bar has a lot of ceiling fans.
Better than us.
Okay.
Hey, what the fuck? Stop doing
I
that.
told you this would happen.
Oh, stop floating.
I can't control it.
Do that in here. Cannot do that in here. Take your girlfriend with you.
Summer, how soup's shook am I by your playlisting bleakness tonight?
You love it? It's snake jazz. My little brother got bit by a snake in outer space and killed it with a hubcap, and my grandpa had to scan its planet's culture for an anti-venom, and they found this. It's my jam.
Seriously, my new thing now is snake jazz. Can you alter the course of a species' evolution like that without repercussion?
Gee, I don't know, Nancy. Can you alter the course of being a giant nerd?
Sorry.
Also later, we need to discuss your clothing and your weight.
That's fair.
What the hell?
Target acquired.
Snakes, get back in the car! Morty, enough with the snakes!
Target acquired.
Aliens, I am a robot sent back in time by the Snake Resistance to protect you from Serpicore. My appearance is designed to be familiar and put you at ease.
The ape child must be eliminated to protect our timeline.
Morty, what the hell did you do? Just trying to do the right thing. I took a living snake back.
Get behind me. I will protect.
Why are they attacking us? I helped them. Gave them proof that there was something bigger and scarier to unite against, you little idiot. They would have gone back into the Dark Ages for a couple of generations, but instead they dedicated themselves into making universe-destroying, unthought-out technology like time travel. Also, they could try to kill a little sack on Earth who couldn't let a dead snake be dead even after it bit his ankle. Next time, stay in the car.
17 billion snake lives ended on June 21st, 2026. The survivors lived only to face a new nightmare. The war between Snake and Machine. In the end, Snake overcame Machine because of what we couldn't predict. That an alien, a child from a distant star, would save us.
get to the heart of SnakeNet. Shut up and stay close. Resistance is mouse-like. Whoa, hey, look, that one's actually really cool. Come here, little guy. Ah, you little son of a bitch! Come on, Morty. Your brood must be exterminated. You will not kill her or her brood. Must kill brood and mother. Get behind me. Your brood will seed all life on this planet. That doesn't make sense. Hey, it's Slippy! Keep up, shitbag!
Hi, you went directly to voicemail because your number's not in my phone. Don't leave a message.
Hi, honey. Look, Morty told me that you didn't think I could hang lights without killing myself. Look, I want to be a strong man for you, but the truth is, I'm coming home with the best lights ever.
Whoa, feel that turbulence?
Nope, I'm on Molly.
Give me some.
I don't suppose you guys will take a bribe? Anyone else want legs? God damn it, are you kidding me? I thought there'd be a time machine in here. They're not even a quarter of the way through making it. I'm gonna have to invent it for them. I don't know snake math. I didn't want to have to do this. All right.
What's going on? What are you doing?
I'm reminding myself to commit even more to your up. Hey, assholes. You. Takes one to know one.
What the heck? Hey, man, you okay? You know what? You. What? Screw you.
Here. Come on, was it really that hard? What do you think? Come on, Morty.
Man, I wonder why I had a black eye.
Morty, shut the up and put these on.
Okay, so what are we doing?
That book has everything they need to create snake time travel. And they're getting it in 1985, snake time. Now they're gonna do it so early that it won't involve us. They're gonna be even stupider with it.
Huh, and then what?
We're removing ourselves from this sloppy up story and letting snake time travel eat its own tail.
Just have to keep my grip.
Jerry Smith, I am here to save you.
What? I already told Rick I don't want help.
I do not know Rick. I was sent by a society of human snake hybrids from an alternate
Rick.
version
I
of...
did it! We're landing! I knew I could do it!
Jesus Christ, Rick, it's pandemonium out there. This is worse than when we left. Rick, look, Summer!
Nobody chokes me without consent!
You just made things worse, Rick.
Trust me, Morty. We helped them press on the gas pedal. We just gotta wait for him to blow by a cop.
Slimmy Pants here, what's up? Snakes? Time travel? They did what? How the f did... Okay, I'm on it. We got a 1051 on a goddamn snake planet.
Don't look at me. I'm afraid of snakes.
I'm afraid of snakes. Bullshit. You afraid of work. That's what you afraid of.
All right.
Let's go take care of this. Oh, look at you! You a smart snake, huh? You using tools now, huh?
Those tools gonna turn into you manipulating the fabric of shit. Get over here, motherfucker.
I think you do.
You don't.
You don't
turn.
We time.
Holy shit! What happened? Look, this is better than them attacking us.
Also, that's about as much curvature as you're gonna get from a time travel story. You know what? This one counts as one of your adventures.
Hey, come on!
No freebies.
Oh, man, I wanted to go to Boob World!
Well, now we can't, because you f***ed up. Gotta learn a lesson. You wanna go to Boob World, Summer?
Not today.
This sucks.
Hey, honey, check it out.
Jerry, I was worried about you.
I was just killing some snakes up here like everyone else, I guess, and finishing the Christmas lights.
Wait, the whole time I was screaming for help and you stayed on the roof?
I couldn't hear you over my own screaming. We've talked about this.
Well, I'm just glad you're safe.
Well, duh. Of course I'm safe. Hey, guess what, asshole? I did it without you.
Oh, God, it hurts!
Oh, what was that?
Healed your leg 50%. The rest is on you, big man.
That's what I'm talking about. Respect, my brother.
Jeez, your dad sucks. All right, Morty, let's go enjoy a little bit of eggnog, huh?
All right.
Not so fast, boys.
Yeah, I think you might be forgetting something.
Merry Christmas, nuts. Get to work. Jeez, I don't see why you have to be smug about it. That's
bullshit?
not necessary. This sucks. Yeah, it's fun until it's you, huh, shitnog?
Yeah, have fun snowing those snake costumes together, you little tramp.
Haha, you tell him, Morty. Jeez, you guys don't have to be dicks about it, all right?
Yeah, neither did the guys before us, but you know what? They were. Merry Christmas, you
Yeah,
shitbags.
goes to Christmas future, bitches. Idiots.
So mean.
You guys are mean.
Tickets, please.
Oh shit, I almost parked. Hey, Morty, hold on. Watch this.
Uh-huh.
Well, I thought it was cool. So, we should be in and out, simple exchange, not even really an adventure. And if anything goes wrong, which it won't, jump into the same vat of acid I jump into.
Okay, wait, what? What vat of acid?
What, Morty, close the door. Priest scouted this location and placed a vat of fake acid amongst the real ones. It's got air hoses and a compartment of bones at the bottom. If things go wrong, which they won't, we jump into the vat of acid and I'll release the bones. They'll float up. What is this face you're making?
Aren't you an inventor?
Yeah, what part of a fake acid vat with built-in air supply and quick-release bones isn't inventive enough for you? And when did my job become pitching you ideas?
All right, let's just do this. I have English homework.
You're still learning English? It's the language you speak. How dumb are you?
Interesting choice of meeting place, Rick.
You like it? My grandson had notes.
Come on.
Show him the crystals, Morty.
I'll make lots of money with these.
I'll make lots of those with these.
Well, those are fake.
You gotta be kidding me.
Christ,
Seriously?
come on. You brought fake crystals and a gun?
Beats real crystals and no gun.
Okay, but does anything beat fake crystals and a fake arm?
Whoa! You know who I am? Even if you kill me, you're a dead man.
You serious? Morty, he's right. We're screwed. Let's just end it. Quick death, come on.
Oh, man.
Hey! Holy sh! What the f? Holy sh! What kind of psycho? His own grandson.
Guess he took his threat pretty serious. Yeah, but it just doesn't make any sense. Well, he was a scientist. Maybe he knew more about acid. Maybe it's like the most painless way to go. How could that have been painless? You saw that pause before the bones floated up? That had to be 5 seconds of unparalleled torture. I can't get my head around it. I thought I'd seen this galaxy at its darkest. This is gonna take a while to feel normal. We're pretty good listeners, boss. Drinks are on us if you want to talk it out. Thanks, but what happened, It happened here. I don't want to lose a moment. Take your time, boss. We'll stay here as long as you want.
Absolutely. I got nowhere to be.
And then little Tommy Flip-Flam's running down the Hyperloop. His ass is on fire from xenon fluid, but his AI hologram is f***ing his own pee-hole.
Great story, boss.
Really detailed.
Yeah, well, I got a million of them.
All right, I think I'm ready to deal with the world now. Let's get out of here. Should we drop our buddy in here before we go? Yeah, probably a good idea. Should we use a different vat? Does acid lose its acid power the more it dissolves?
What am I, an acidologist? Here, grab that rat-like creature. We'll do a little test.
Look, if you're gonna test the damn acid, don't use a rat. Take that ladle, grab a spoonful, and put it in the analyzer.
Oh, Malone! Okay, I'd say that's pretty acidy.
Drop them in. What are you doing? You said not the rat, the guy. Oh, Maron! Look at the size of the bones on that rat.
Oh, how many sets of bones this rat got?
And look how the smaller ones are shaped. They're like little cartoon bones, like if you drew a bone in art class.
All right, that tears it. I'm canceling the rest of my night and calling a bone scientist. We're getting to the bottom of this.
Jesus Christ, enough already! Can we go?
The f is wrong with you?
Just admit it was a shitty idea.
Having a grandson?
A vat of fake acid? Are you dying of dementia?
How are you talking to me like this? When did you get so cocky?
Tonight! Tonight, Rick. The night I saw you
Because
fail.
you ruined it!
It was pre-ruined.
Oh, was it worse than when I was a pickle? Oh, that's right. You weren't there for that. Turns out kind of cool. Maybe there's a connection there.
Excuse me?
What's that cool thing you did without me again? The awesome thing? I guess you wanted a dragon? Unforgettable.
God,
timely, too. You really got in on that Game of Thrones fever right at the peak.
You trying as hard as you can to hurt me right now proves my point.
I'll let you know when you have a point, and the world will know when I try to hurt
Big
you.
man, big genius, big lonely drunk.
Hey, save some of these atomic age beatnik zingers for your English homework, Bukowski. There's no such thing as a bad idea, Morty. It's about execution.
No such thing as a bad idea, except all of mine, right?
Morty, wanting a dragon isn't an idea.
I'm not talking about that. I'm constantly pitching you ideas, Rick, and you act like they're not even worth thinking about.
What, a helicopter lawn chair? That's just something you saw on TV.
What about my video game-style place-saving device?
Oh, my God. Here we go.
It's a good idea, Rick. A device that lets you...
Save your place like in a video game, but in real life so that you can try stuff and then go back to your save point. Yes, Morty, I saw it on Futurama.
Oh, so you don't do anything unless it's original.
I don't do time travel.
It's not time travel. It's saving a place in time.
Oh, my God. Is this what you think I do? This is where the heavy lifting happens in your mind? Do you have any idea how much f***ing work would have to go into a machine that...
Ha! You can't do it!
I can do anything, Morty. Your idea is not worth doing.
You can't do it.
Before, what you're trying to do was called negging. It was called reverse psychology, and incels didn't invent it. Bugs Bunny did.
You can't do it.
There is nothing I cannot do.
A place-saving video game thing.
You're a piece of shit.
Just say you can't do it.
I won't.
You won't say you can't.
You, Morty.
You.
Son of a bitch.
So are you gonna...
Yes, I'm gonna f***ing do it.
Rick, it's 3 a.m. What's going on? Why'd you call me?
You were right, Morty. I failed. I can't make it. And honestly, I'm pretty ashamed. That might be why I've been so aggressive and unfair about rejecting your ideas.
Rick.
Fake acid vat, Morty. Maybe I've lost it. Maybe I never had it.
Come on, you know I didn't mean it that way. I think we just need to find better ways to communicate.
Sorry, I lash out sometimes. I don't know why I do that. I'm so ashamed of myself. Hearing you talk about the vat, it really opened my eyes. Like, what the f am I even doing?
Hey, I don't like hearing this talk. You're a great inventor. We just got a couple things to work on. Let's start with inventing a little honesty. Sound good?
Thank you, Morty. Sounds good. Or maybe I'll just kill you.
What? Whoa, Rick!
Because I f***ing did it!
Oh, yeah!
Booyah!
Holy sh**, you did it! You
did it, you little son of a bitch!
How did
Morty,
you...
you want me to explain, or you want to go have some fun?
I want to have some fun.
Oh my God, Rick, this is thank you.
You can thank me later. Go nuts.
Best grandpa ever.
That's all I ever wanted to hear.
All right, class. I know I've been absent for most of this school year. I'll be honest with you. During spring break, I attended a Renaissance fair and fell in love with a buxom hand axe juggler half my age. I overplayed my interest in her lifestyle just to get closer to her, traveling the country with her troupe, and I am embarrassed to say I am now an expert blacksmith with several STDs and a broken heart. I beseech your nasty little asses to speak on the matter no further. Now that that's out of the way, who wants to do some math?
I'll do it.
A bold move, Morty Smith, but can you deliver?
Oh, I've got something to deliver.
Oh, God! What the hell? Oh, God damn it, this is traumatizing!
Oh, my God. What's wrong with your dick?
I'm allergic to sheepskin. Bold move, Morty Smith, but can you deliver?
Holy sh**. I could do anything.
Yes, with math, anything is possible. Except a long-term relationship with a woman that calls you a warlock for using a phone.
Hi, hey, Jessica.
Oh, hey, Morty.
Hey, Jessica, right?
Yeah, hi, sorry. I thought you knew my name because we've interacted so many times, but maybe I was just being stupid. Sorry. Hi, I'm Jessica. That's me.
Cool.
Jessica.
See you around.
Yeah, I hope I see you around.
Guess we'll see. I think I'm gonna like this thing.
Oh, shit! Suicide by cop! I love these!
You're living too fast, Morty.
I don't pay for your friendship, Heroin Keith.
Damn.
Jessica. Hey, I'm sorry I brushed you off the other day. I was just trying to be cool.
Oh,
and...
I don't even know what you're talking about. But you seem different. Like you finally found yourself.
Yeah, I guess I have.
That's good to hear. I like who you found.
Yeah, I do too.
Looking forward to seeing more. I'll see you tomorrow, Morty.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. How's it going? You know, it was fun, Rick. Real fun. You know, I definitely sowed those oats, but I think you invented a little lesson for me along the way. Living without consequences is great, but then I started wondering, what am I living for? What am I building? If I'm always looking back, I'm never looking ahead. And then it hit me. We are who we are because of consequences. You can't live without consequences, you know? You feel me?
Wow, that's a beautiful thought, Morty, but, no, there were definitely consequences.
What are you talking about?
I mean, you did everything you did. It all happened.
No, the respawn button, the do-over.
It's not a do-over. You just did it over and over.
What are you saying? What did you do?
I think it's more appropriate to ask, what did you do? You see, Morty, you weren't saving your place and going back. I don't respect time travel. If Ant-Man and the Wasp can do it, I'm not interested. It wasn't so much a do-over as it was isolating a moment in time, splitting your probable selves, and shunting you into a near-duplicate, equally probable reality, transporting you into it at the moment of parallel determination. Pretty nifty. Time crystals are a bitch and a half, but the only real hitch is that there was already a you in each probable dimension, so we had to solve for that. That's right, you little bitch. It's the prestige. You prestige
Rick,
yourself.
how many did I kill?
Tell me, Morty. Every time you reset to smell Jessica's hair, every time you relive the satisfying fart, that's how many Mortys you've incinerated, you greedy little junkie.
Oh, God. Even those times when I...
Especially those times. It's over, Morty. Feel this. Take this in. This is God.
Why would you do this?
My hands are clean, Morty. I gave you a choice. You could listen to me explain in great scientific detail how it all works, or you could have fun. Did you have fun, Morty?
Is this because of the vat?
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm afraid it's too late for that, Morty. What's done is done, but it can end. The original split is still time-stamped. I can make it so those Mortys never existed at all. Make them purely theoretical.
Oh, God, what do I do?
I think it's clear you've done enough.
Tell me how, Rick. Tell me how I saved those Mortys.
You live with the consequences. Those things happen somewhere, but you can murder. Only one Morty did them.
Just do it.
All right, let me just sync these up and get you back to your dimension.
Wait, so you're not even my Rick? Then why do you know about the vat?
Every Rick has a vat. Well, Morty, I'd say we've invented a little honesty today. How about you?
I don't deserve this. I was just having fun.
So is Jeffrey Dahmer. Speaking of, time to pay the piper.
Woody Smith, come out with your hands up, you sick. We're also fine with just shooting you if you want a suicide by cop.
What? What is this?
Wow, it's like a SWAT team, some drug dealers, some grassroots Me Too activists, the ACLU, Jesus, Morty, the AARP.
I don't want to talk about
the
it.
NAACP Gamergate. Morty, is that Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor?
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is that what you want me to say? What do I do?
Ugh, well, I'm stumped. Seems like there's no way out of this one. Unless...
God damn it.
Yeah, I guess it is, what did you call it? A shitty idea?
God damn it.
Say the vat is good.
The vat is good.
Kiss the vat.
Do not go into that vat. It appears to be full of acid.
It is. Please, he's just a little boy. Let me talk to him.
Tell him we're very upset.
Morty, please, step back. That vat is full of acid. It'll melt you completely, leaving only your bones.
God damn it.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm going in the vat.
Oh, God. Oh, I blame myself. Oh, what a tragedy. Oh, well, he's bones now. I guess all debts are paid.
Agreed. He's definitely dead.
Why else would the bones come up?
While his actions were horrifying, and we are well within our rights to be outraged, I do wonder if we bear some responsibility for this young man melting himself in acid. Are we here for justice? Or something else? Though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy.
Merchant of Venice, nice. Very cool. Lots to think about.
Vengeance is a tomb.
All right, okay, this isn't a poetry reading. A kid just died. Everybody go home and hug your loved one or something.
Wait, how do we know that's really acid and you didn't just have someone's bones in
I mean,
there?
if you're doubting if that's really acid and not just jacuzzi heated Mountain Dew, you're welcome to use this ladle.
You think I'm a goddamn idiot? Brought my own.
Ah! Oh god! Oh god, no! Oh god, no! Oh no! Huh? I'm acid proof. All of you. All of you! I'm gonna be rich! Here's my ass! Take a good look! Spank it! Acid proof!
Feels like that guy had other stuff going on. Don't ever make fun of me again, ever! Alright, come on, Morty, let's go home.
Wait, what? This isn't our reality?
What, you think I'd waste our home teaching you a f***ing lesson? I am gonna miss this place, though. Johnny Carson's still alive and on the air. 9/11 never happened, and Rocky Road ice cream has peanut butter instead of marshmallows.
What? The marshmallows are the best part!
Morty!
Our next guest gave us, well, actually very little information, besides the fact that he is impervious to acid. So here he is. He's here to prove it. Let's welcome this guy.
Let's do this shit!
Now, you're sure about this?
Eat my
I did not know that ass was on the menu.
Don't steal my moment! Do it!
Okay, then without further ado, drop him.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! No! 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 Oh my god! Oh,
Looks like I'll be eating ass flambe. Please kill me.
Did you get any of that?
What kind of parents drag their kids away for the entire week of spring break? I'm missing Mike Triskett's drug party. Look at this. He's already watching Euphoria at a pregame.
Pregame, game, video game.
Yes, yes. Drugs and video games. Poor babies. What you need is to level up with a bong rip of nature. Trust me, this is good for you.
Can someone just kill me? Grandpa Rick, you can kill anything.
No, he can't, Summer. We're roughing it. And that means no sci-fi bullshit. Isn't that right, Rick?
Uh-huh.
Rick, was that a sci-fi phone call?
Shut up, Jerry. Damn it, I didn't think she had this number.
Why are you building a Faraday box to block out the signal?
Oh my god, Grandpa's ghosting someone.
I'm not ghosting. Hey, give it back, Summer!
Rick, please answer me. I'm pregnant. Oh my god, Grandpa, you boy.
I'm not a boy, Summer. There's no way those kids are mine.
Well, how? At least we know why Rick actually came on the trip to avoid his guy problem.
Why would this person lie?
I don't know, honey. She's addicted to what the Rick did. You know, it's a tale as old as my huge dynamite penis. Can we turn the radio on?
I am not letting you abandon those kids like you abandoned me.
Oh my god.
We're going to see this baby mama right now.
What, like literally now?
Yes, now. That's an order.
Ah! No! This is exactly what I was talking about. Rick, I hope you realize the tubing permit was non-refundable.
Relax, Jerry. We'll be in and out in a minute. Then you can get right back to your dumb vacation with a family that doesn't need you.
Kind of expected someone to defend me, but sure, okay.
Hello, Gaia. Hold on, let me just adjust my seismic to English translator.
Rick, you came.
Where is she?
You're looking at her.
I don't understand.
Isn't it obvious, Morty? I f***ed a planet.
Field, isn't it?
Promising subsidies for investments and a supposedly guaranteed purchase price for the energy produced.
My investment was
All right, so for the past 3 years, the cheapest and only display that Apple's made has been the $5,000 Pro Display XDR, which would cost an extra $1,000 on top just for the matte finish and another $1,000 just for the stand. So when this new studio display got announced, you know, it's a very Apple design. It's a 27-inch 5K screen surrounded by all these little Apple bells and whistles. And with the stand included for $1,600, a lot of Apple fans were understandably very happy. But then after the dust of the announcement settled, a lot of us found ourselves asking, wait a second, is this actually a good deal? So now I've been using this display for about 2 weeks now, and I have an answer for you, but I need you to understand how I'm getting there. So for most people who are not interested and were never gonna buy this screen anyway, the is it worth it conversation basically comes down to the spec sheet and just comparing it with other similar displays. It's like when you go to buy a house and the appraisal just goes and looks at square footage and the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and materials used and proximity, and it comes up with a price based on what other houses with the same sort of specs are going for. So this new studio display, it's 27 inches diagonally, 5K resolution, 600 nits brightness. It's a IPS LCD at 60 hertz with P3 color. It's got a webcam up top. It's got some speakers at the bottom, some USB-C ports around the back, and it's $1,600. So if I was an appraiser looking for a comparable house, I would be looking at the LG Ultrafine 5K. That is also a 27-inch 5K IPS LCD. It's at 500 nits, also at 60 hertz with P3 color, a webcam, some speakers, and some USB-C ports on the back. That's $1,300, but it's also 5 years old. And while there are not that many other 5K displays out there, there are a ton of 4K screens. And one of those would be the Dell UltraSharp U2720Q. That is also a 27-inch IPS LCD panel with thinner bezels, also at 60 hertz, and also with P3 color.
France is one of Europe's and one of the world's most significant countries. Home to 68 million people, France is the third most populous nation in Europe, while the French economy is the 7th largest in the world, nearly identical in size to India, a country with 20 times the population. The French language and French culture are widely known throughout the world, while the French military is the 8th best funded in the world, with bases all across the planet. France is a major global great power and has been for centuries now, which is why it's so surprising that nearly a third of the country here is basically just an empty void. And partially because of that, France has been diminishing in influence for centuries and continues to do so. For decades, people have famously identified metropolitan France in Europe as looking like a hexagon, which is why the country is so often referred to as simply l'hexagone. And due to this unique shape, it's incredibly easy to look at France through the lens of geometry when discussing regions, statistics, demography, and history. For instance, if you take a map of France and you draw a diagonal line from the port city of Le Havre on the English Channel over to straight through the center of Marseille on the Mediterranean, you'll cut the country roughly in half, and yet 60% of the French live to the east of this line, while only 40% live to the west of it, a fact that can be seen significantly more clearly when you switch out the map for a population density map. But what's far more interesting than that line are these lines. In between them is a stretch of France nearly 1,000 kilometers long and about 400 kilometers wide on average. Nearly 1/3 of France's entire territory that's about the same size as Belarus. Within this large zone, the population density of people is only about 30 persons per square kilometer, about the same as the US state of West Virginia, which has led to French demographers referring to the area as France's empty diagonal. And while in reality, that's hardly empty. Compared with the rest of France and Europe, it is a strange anomaly. Throughout the entirety of France on average, the population density is more like 120 people per square kilometer, 4 times more than the density of people living within the diagonal. To give even more perspective, neighboring Germany has a population density of 232 per square kilometer, while England has more like 270, and is therefore 9 times as densely populated as France France's diagonal. France is politically divided between 18 regions that are further split up into departments and then into communes, somewhat similar to how America divides itself into states and counties. The least populated department in France is Lozère, with just a total of 76,000 inhabitants for all its nearly 5,200 square kilometers. That is comparable in size to the state of Palestine, which is home to more than 5 million people, while the entire population of Lozère could all fit comfortably into Wembley Stadium in London, with 24,000 seats left over to spare. And of course, Lozère is directly in the center of the empty diagonal, the most sparsely populated region of France, where Lozère is hardly an exception. All of these departments running through the center of France are substantially less populated than those on either side of it to the west and the east. So what's been causing this anomaly in the core of one of Europe's largest countries to be happening? Well, for one thing, it's a bit important to understand some of the prior demographic history of France, which I promise is actually fascinating. The French philosopher Auguste Comte once said that demography is destiny, and for centuries, France's demography guaranteed much of the nation's successes and influence. For most of history, France was by far the most populous country on the European continent. During the medieval period, more than 1 out of every 4 people in Europe were French, and even by the 17th century, it was still 1 out of every 5. During the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, France was still the most populous nation in Europe, and they had a higher population than even the entirety of Russia, and nearly double the population of the United Kingdom. In fact, at the time of Napoleon, France was the 4th most populous country in the entire world, lagging only behind China, India, and Japan. Such a huge population compared with all of her neighbors helps to explain France's dominance in European affairs throughout the medieval, Renaissance, and early industrial periods. But beginning in the 19th century, this demographic dominance over all of her neighbors began to shift away dramatically. The birth rate in France began to diminish in the late 18th century, far before they began to do so in every other European country, and then, during the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, nearly 2 million French citizens were killed, which led to France's low population growth throughout the rest of the 19th century. For many years in France across the 1800s, the number of deaths in the country exceeded the number of births. And then, during the First World War, France lost 10% of its entire active male population in just 4 years. 1.3 million French were killed during the war, and along with even more births being forgone by millions of potential fathers being away at war, the French population dropped by more than 3 million. And of course, the areas that were hit the hardest by this population drop was the rural French countryside, because at the same time that these trends were happening, France was also rapidly urbanizing, and the population was becoming highly centralized around just a few key population centers: Marseille, Lyon, Lille, and most importantly of all, Paris, the ever-growing city. Beginning in the 17th century, Paris began to grow larger and larger as hundreds of thousands of peasants from the French countryside continuously moved there in search of better opportunities. At the beginning of the 20th century, 40% of the French population were still living in the rural countryside. But over decades of intense societal pressures coming from millions of deaths from war, millions of men being away at war, decreasing fertility rates, and ever-increasing rates of urbanization, just 85 years later in 1985, that rate of French residing in the countryside had plummeted down to only 8%. And by then, nearly 1 out of every 5 French were living in just the Paris metropolitan area alone. But while urbanization and war certainly had massive effects on the population of the French countryside, not all areas were affected evenly. The mountainous areas of the French Alps, for example, while technically having a slightly dipping population, have a thriving tourism industry. And the majority of the French wine country, while also very rural, also continues to have a thriving industry and tourism appeal that has kept the areas decently well populated. But there are larger geographic issues at play here as well that help to explain the lack of people in the empty diagonal. When looking back at the map, you'll see that the empty diagonal spans one landlocked end of France by its border with Belgium to another landlocked end by its border with Spain. And while not every coastal area in France is highly populated, it makes sense that many of them would be, as 40% of the entire global human population lives within just 100 kilometers of a coastline. So, by drawing these lines across the French interior, you're essentially drawing a line from one area that would be statistically less populated to another area that would also be statistically less populated. In fact, if you ignore international borders entirely, the empty diagonal's population trend continues and even expands its width across the Pyrenees into Spain, a country dealing with its own demographic issues in the form of low birth rates. But there's still more to it than just not being near the coast. The areas that the diagonal cover are largely agricultural land, and throughout the world, as agriculture has become more automated and industrialized, less workers in the industry are needed. In fact, 40 years ago, about 1.6 million people in France worked in agriculture, whereas now it's roughly only 400,000, or 4 times less people. Fewer jobs and fewer opportunities to make a living inevitably mean that people eventually move on. And regardless of the country, low population density itself can become a sort of self-repeating feedback loop as well. Areas with lower population often have minimal commercial activity, and as the already small population ages, there's nothing keeping the younger generations in the area. So they leave. Not just for work, but also for all the amenities that other, more thriving areas can bring. And while the French government has expressed concerns over the issue and even funded research into how to fix it, there remains no real answer. While France's geography makes this issue seem relatively unique to France, it really isn't. Demographic shifts from the countryside to the cities is a global phenomenon, and so too is the fact that more people generally tend to live closer to the coastlines, where there's just more economic activity. Therefore, it shouldn't really be too surprising after all that, wow, people actually do be living in cities.
The story of Saudi Arabia's oil problem starts with success. Almost a century ago, after 3 decades of bloody, complex conquest over belligerents as small as tribes and as large as the Ottoman Empire, Abdulaziz bin Abdul Rahman Al Saud finally held nearly all of the Arabian Peninsula's territory. His military and political triumph was rewarded with his ability, on September 23, 1932, to unify his dominions into a single modern Arab state, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That was hardly the end of his success, though. With newfound, tenuous stability across the peninsula, Abdulaziz started work to verify a long-held hunch. He believed, without any real evidence, that there must be oil in Arabia. This was typically brushed aside by oil companies as the starry-eyed fantasies of a desperate ruler of an inhospitable land, but he was, of course, correct. In 1932, neighboring Bahrain struck oil, and suddenly, the king's fantasies weren't so fanciful after all. On March 3, 1938, Standard Oil of California struck oil at Saudi Arabia's Daman No. 7 drill site. Successful oil exploration was followed up by more exploration, which too was successful, and as more and more wells punctuated the Arabian Peninsula, the success only compounded. As it turned out, this barren, dusty peninsula was home to the single largest proven oil field on Earth. This was good for Abdulaziz. He grew rich, his country developed, his kingship was solidified. In a mere decade, he went from leading some lowly nomadic tribes in an uncharted land to striking diplomatic deals with the President of the United States. Prosperity reigned over the coming decades, as power was passed from Abdulaziz to his son, then to another of his sons, and so on and so forth. In an era defined by unprecedented success, there was little reason for the people to push back on a now antiquated form of governance. A social contract started to emerge. The people would support the monarchy politically if the monarchy supported the people financially. Infrastructure, subsidies, handouts, housing, the monarchy provided all. Saudi Arabia's fortunes only improved as the start of the 21st century ushered in a historical rise in oil prices. The country's GDP nearly tripled in just 8 years, and Riyadh was inundated by high-end hotels, foreign faces, and international consulting firms. The money and fortune seemed endless and effortless. Until, of course, it ended. Crude oil traded at an all-time high of $147.26 in July 2008. Over the coming months, as the world descended into its deepest financial crisis since the Great Depression, prices steadily slid down to just $40 a barrel, a nearly four-fold collapse in half a year. The direct impacts of this crash on Saudi Arabia were surprisingly minimal, as the government had amassed vast financial reserves over the prior decades of prosperity, and oil prices quickly started ticking up again, ending 2009 at around $80 a barrel, a figure the kingdom could live with. But then it happened again. In summer 2014, prices began a steady slide that would bottom out at $33 a barrel in January 2016, a symptom of incredible global oversupply. Between 2016 and 2020, prices would average about $51.20. The problem, however, was this number. Over the same period, the break-even oil price, the average price at which the country's oil industry as a whole turns a profit, was $85.70. This isn't to say that Saudi oil companies simply couldn't turn a profit, but it does mean that there were fewer opportunities to turn a profit. There were fewer wells whose operating costs were low enough to enable profitable operations. With an oil sector representing close to half of GDP, Saudi Arabia had to dip into its financial reserves, which therefore began a precipitous decline. In a country defined by its social compact, financial support by the monarchy in exchange for political support by the people, seismic changes occurred. Starting on January 1st, 2018, for the first time ever, the Saudi people were asked to help fund the government. On any purchase of goods and services, they would now pay a 5% value-added tax. Some of the risks of running such a deeply oil-entrenched economy are straightforward. For example, we know that, sometime in the future, a day will occur that will come to be known as peak oil. Experts agree that either demand decline, supply constraints, or a mix of both will lead to the world's oil production reaching a plateau before a decline. Now, past predictions on the timing of such an event have overwhelmingly proved inaccurate. Most experts in the 70s expected production to level off by 2000, but there are now stronger indications that peak oil is nearing. Between 2018 and 2019, oil production ticked down slightly. This wasn't the first year-to-year production drop in the 2000s, but both other instances, 2002 and 2009, can be directly attributed to major external crises, 9/11 and the Great Recession. In 2019, production dropped simply because of market factors. Of course then, in 2020, another external crisis occurred which led to the steepest year-to-year decline in recent history, but the pandemic might lead to structural, long-term changes, such as less driving with more people working from home, that would result in a permanent drop in demand. So now, whether oil production will fully recover and start growing again is in legitimate question, and some answers have started to emerge. Shell, one of the world's largest oil producers, has said that it believes 2019 was its high watermark for production. Peak oil might have already occurred. That is undoubtedly bad for Saudi Arabia, but potentially less devastating than one might think, at least in the near term. Located on some of the most accessible oil fields in the world, Saudi wells boast some of the world's cheapest production costs, meaning they will not be the first to close down once demand declines. However, it's still the case that going forward, it's going to be harder to base an economy on oil than before. Looking at the graph of crude oil prices since 1983, the era before 2005 is noticeably different than that after. It's not the prices themselves that matter here, it's the fluctuations. Oil prices have never before been this volatile. These semi-regular four-fold spikes or drops that occur in mere months are a new phenomenon. Running an economy on such a volatile commodity is incredibly difficult, and this price volatility is only expected to increase in the future as industry disruption ramps up. Simply put, running an economy on oil in the 21st century is not a good idea. Some in Saudi Arabia know this. Of King Abdulaziz's 45 sons, 36 survived to adulthood and 6 ascended to the throne. Upon the death of his half-brother in 2015, King Salman bin Abdulaziz became the latest to rule the kingdom. Already aged 79, and with brothers only marginally younger, the decision was made that Salman would be the last of his generation to rule, and so Mohammed bin Nayef, a grandson of King Abdulaziz, was appointed crown prince, next in line for the throne. Meanwhile, Mohammed bin Salman would serve as deputy crown prince. 2 years later, however, shortly before midnight on June 20th, Mohammed bin Nayef was summoned to the Safa Palace in Mecca for a meeting with the king. That meeting did not materialize, however, as he was led into another room, held captive, and told by royal court officials that he must give up his claim to the throne. After hours locked in that room, Mohammed bin Nayef agreed to resign. The deputy crown prince and son of the king, Mohammed bin Salman, was now next in line for the throne. Over the years prior, the 31-year-old had quietly worked to amass power in the background and increasingly became the face of the Saudi royal family. Reports indicate that he was indeed responsible for orchestrating the former crown prince ousting, which is not a stretch to believe. In fact, he has gained so much influence over his father's decision-making that he is now considered, nearly universally, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. Mohammed bin Salman recognized his country's oil problem before his ascent, however. In late 2015, the McKinsey Global Institute published a detailed 144-page report analyzing the future prospects of Saudi Arabia's economy in the wake of 2014's oil price crash. This issued some dire predictions. Their base case, what they expected would happen without any major proactive changes by Saudi Arabia, predicted that between 2014 and 2030, the country's average monthly household income would fall from $3,800 to $3,000. The unemployment rate would rise from 12 to 22%, and $900 billion in government assets would be replaced by $2 trillion in debt. In short, Saudi Arabia was on the path towards fiscal collapse. This attracted attention. Most importantly, that of Mohammed bin Salman. Marking the first major move on his rise towards de facto ruler, MBS took on the country's biggest challenge ever. He fulfilled his reputation as a reformer and plotted a path to transform Saudi Arabia. It was called Vision 2030. According to this plan, transforming Saudi Arabia into a sustainable nation involved 3 primary objectives: improve the government, the economy, and society. That first pillar, government, was perhaps the broadest in scope, ranging between decreasing corruption, stripping down bureaucracy, moving government services online, and far more. Perhaps the most dramatic manifestation of this mission occurred mere months after MBS's promotion to Crown Prince, when some 500 government ministers, business people, and royal family members were rounded up and detained in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh until they could stand trial for corruption. The degree to which this crackdown was legitimate is up for debate, but it did net the government a hefty $170 billion in assets in ensuing settlement deals. The second pillar, related to economic reform, was also composed of a broad collection of initiatives, including privatizing certain government services, increasing participation among women in the workforce, attracting increased investment in the country by foreign companies, recharging government coffers, and growing private sector industries. In addition, in a country known for its prohibition of all but religious tourists, Saudi Arabia would now allow and embrace foreign visitors, taking a page from the UAE's economic diversification playbook. Of course, to make tourism work, one needs a place that tourists want to go, and that's a key focus of the third and final pillar: improving society. Now, Saudi society has long been defined by a strict interpretation of Islamic principles. Shops briefly close for each of 5 daily prayers, religious police roam the street enforcing strict dress codes, homosexual activity is punishable by execution, adult women are required to have a legal guardian to make decisions on their behalf, atheists are legally defined as terrorists, and plenty more. In sum, Saudi society was not one that many foreign tourists would feel comfortable visiting, and beyond that, considering their interpretation of Islamic principles prohibited it, there was little of what most foreign tourists would consider entertainment. Therefore, MBS went on a mission to change that. The country reversed a 30-year ban on movie theaters and partnered with AMC to open dozens of cinemas across the country. It established the region's largest music festival with artists like David Guetta, Steve Aoki, and Tiesto. It inked a deal with Six Flags to open a theme park in the country, and it gained a coveted spot on 2021's Formula One calendar with the first ever Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. In addition, some of their most regressive social policies were abolished. Women were now allowed to drive, leave the country without their guardian's permission, watch live sports, and wear a wider variety of clothing types. Altogether, Saudi Arabia, increasingly on the surface, was starting to look more like its neighbors Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. Countries socially and politically rooted in Islam, but open to elements of the increasingly globalized Western lifestyle. Below the surface, however, it soon became clear that far less had changed. On October 2nd, 2018, shortly after 1 p.m., journalist and Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi entered the consulate of Saudi Arabia in Istanbul, Turkey, to seek necessary documentation for his upcoming marriage. He was never seen again. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, it emerged that Khashoggi had been assassinated, seemingly in retribution for critical coverage of the Saudi government, and according to the CIA and other intelligence organizations, the killing was ordered directly by Mohammed bin Salman. While stifling dissent was nothing new for Saudi Arabia, the assassination of a journalist for a Western paper on foreign soil struck a chord with international observers that elicited a level of outrage unfamiliar for Saudi Arabia. The country was used to condemnations by Amnesty International, critical statements by ministries of foreign affairs, and world news section stories about their various human rights abuses, but never before had the country's misconduct reached front-page status globally. Never before had an instance of Saudi cruelty permeated into common knowledge. Backed up by less covered incidents such as Saudi Arabia's alleged war crimes in Yemen, the hacking of Jeff Bezos' phone, who owns the Washington Post where Khashoggi's columns were published, and continued stifling of dissent, an informal international consensus was formed. Despite the more liberal laws, the theme parks, the music festivals, and more, deep down, Saudi Arabia was not reformed. And now, the world knew it. This is an issue for Saudi Arabia. Now, when David Guetta performs in Saudi Arabia, he has to deal with a barrage of critical articles. When Formula One announces its upcoming Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, it is faced with memes liking it to racing in Pyongyang or Kabul. When AMC continues with its planned expansion into the country, it encounters reputational damage when its competitor pulls out on ethical grounds. This all has a cost. If a business faces similar profit opportunity in both Saudi Arabia and, say, the UAE, they're going to pick the UAE as it's been far more successful at building a friendly face for the West, despite an also iffy record on human rights. Altogether, these and other factors have meant that Vision 2030 is still but a vision. The plan laid out 4 key performance indicators to track the highest level goals of the project. The first was the percentage of the country's gross domestic product attributable to the private sector, rather than state-owned enterprises like Saudi Aramco. Considering the private sector involves non-oil industries, growing it is key to diversification. In 2016, this percentage stood at 40%, and the goal was for it to reach 65% by 2030. Today, over the past 4 financial quarters, that number stands at 42.7%. A crucial aspect of growing non-oil revenues involves attracting foreign direct investments. They want, for example, an investor from Singapore to decide to open a Hilton at the new Six Flags theme park. Foreign investment is key to kickstarting natural, compounding private sector economic growth. In 2016, foreign direct investment represented 3.8% of the country's GDP, at least according to the Saudi government, and the goal was for it to grow to 5.7% by 2030. Today, according to the World Bank, foreign direct investment represents only 0.57% of GDP. The next indicator, non-oil exports as a percentage of overall exports, is perhaps the only glimmer of hope. With a 2016 baseline of 16% and a goal of 50% by 2030, 22.4% of the country's exports are now non-oil products. This is, however, well below the pace of growth needed to reach the goal. Finally, the unemployment rate of Saudi nationals stood at 11.6% in 2016 And despite the goal of bringing it down to 7% by 2030, it has since ticked up slightly to 11.7%. All around, the vision of 2030 is not being realized. Now, of course there's been an unprecedented pandemic. Of course oil prices have been low, and of course these are only the first years of reform, but all that notwithstanding, there's little evidence of deviation from the current failing path. A huge chunk of the government's money is being sunk into mega development projects like a $500 billion planned smart city along the Red Sea, or a $3 billion entertainment district near Riyadh to play host to the Six Flags, Formula One track, and more. But mega projects like this don't work. In the United Arab Emirates, flashy developments like the Burj Khalifa and the Palm Islands weren't what transformed the country into the most diversified economy in the region. It was the unglamorous, boring task of crafting a business environment that the world feels they can cooperate with. Businesses want access to Saudi Arabia because it's a massive untapped market, but right now, it's just too risky an environment for them. It's too risky to operate in an absolute monarchy with a track record of volatile infighting. It's too risky to operate in a country known for eye-catching human rights abuses at home and abroad. It's too risky to operate in a country where women in the workplace have fewer rights than their male counterparts. It's too risky to operate in a country whose legal system is based on a strict yet ambiguous interpretation of Sharia law. Saudi Arabia has the riches to brute force some private sector growth. It has the money to lure some international investment, but as of yet, it does not have the vision to kickstart organic economic transformation. Reform so far has been superficial, but those making the decisions that matter to Saudi Arabia can see through that. Therefore, if Saudi Arabia actually wants to cement its place in 2030's world, it's going to have to engage in what its leaders want least: radical, fundamental, systematic change. It's really just 4 lanes, a median, and some on and off ramps. The interstate highway system is no engineering marvel, no unprecedented undertaking, no massively innovative concept. It's a simple idea, one that arose since the earliest days of the automobile. It's not exciting, which is why it often goes so underappreciated. Take the interstates away, though, and you have a weaker nation. You have one with dramatically starker regional divides, one with increased decentralization. More specifically, you have a nation absent of a noticeable portion of the late 1900s economic development and transformation. These words, like the system itself, still aren't exciting. But put more simply, if you are an American, regardless of whether you use the interstate system, your life would be noticeably different in a reality without the interstates. It's a single collection of roadways with an influence so great that it permeates into every American's life. It all started here 102 years ago. 79 vehicles departed from the White House's ellipse at 11:15 a.m. on July 7th, 1919. They snaked through the district streets before crossing into Maryland and stopping for lunch in Rockville at 12:30 p.m. The coupling on one of their kitchen trailers broke, and a car's fan bells too, but all in all, it was an uneventful 7-hour, 46-mile, 74-kilometer journey to the Frederick Fairgrounds. 12.5 hours later, they woke up, left, drove, arrived, and slept again. This cycle repeated itself. Day after day,
This is Russia, the largest country in the world and the primary belligerent in what may prove to be the most consequential conflict of this century. From the get-go, I want to stress that I, like almost every armchair general on the internet, am woefully underqualified to speak about the details of the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. However, this is a conflict that more than any that came before it is being fought just as hard with economics as it is with tanks and fighter jets. And from that angle, we can learn a lot about a country that by many metrics is absolutely terrifying, but by many others is something else entirely. As all of us have been doom-binging the latest updates of the situation in the Ukraine, there is a soundbite that we have been fed over and over again, which is that despite Russia's vast size, immense resource wealth and large population, its economy is comparatively kinda pathetic. Its national output has been compared in size to American states like Texas and Florida, which is probably a bit disingenuous, if for no other reason than the economy of Texas is massive. But it also sends the wrong message because the economy of Texas is, by almost every other metric, better than Russia's. It's strange to call the 11th largest economy in the world inadequate. But it's not the headline figures that tell the full story as much as it's the squandered opportunities. Had a few things been done differently over the past 3 decades, there is no reason to expect that Russia couldn't be one of the wealthiest, most prosperous nations in the world today. This was a country that in less than 10 years grew its output by over 800%. It had a population that was ready to embrace the free market and work their butts off to build a better future for themselves. And it had a world that, by and large, wanted it to do well to avoid regressing back into the Cold War. So, what happened? Just how large and powerful is Russia's economy today? What stopped the growth it was experiencing in the early 2000s? And finally, is it in a position where it can justify a conflict as costly as the one it just got itself into? As always, once we've done all of that, we can put Russia on the Economics Explained national leaderboard. Yeah, this is going to be another country I'm not allowed to travel to for a while again. Okay, so the economy of Russia as we know it today started at the end of 1991 after the Soviet Union was officially dissolved and the Russian Federation was born out of its ashes, alongside Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine. The second most powerful entity in the world at the time disappearing effectively overnight left a very serious power vacuum. After living through a failed coup attempt in 1989, Mikhail Gorbachev, the last leader of the USSR, wasn't overly keen in sticking around as a public figure any longer than he needed to. That left Boris Yeltsin, a former high-ranking Soviet politician, as the singular ruler of the new Russian Federation. While the West was thrilled that the Soviet Union, their arch-nemesis for the better part of half a century, was gone, they were in many ways more scared of Russia at this time than they were in the years before. This represented the single most dramatic shift of power in world history. Even ignoring the humanitarian crisis of millions of people not sure where they should go to work or where they should get food or how their new country was supposed to operate, the rest of the world was wrestling with a potentially bigger issue, which was that this fragile state had a stockpile of thousands of spicy fireworks, and it could easily just regress back into another communist adversary. Yeltsin was, at the end of the day, a former Soviet politician, so there was no reason to expect that he couldn't just revert the country back to a Soviet system of government. Seeing this potential threat and wanting to smooth out the situation as much as possible, a plan was put in place based off a handbook published by the International Monetary Fund and other international financial institutions. Here's a question for you. Let's say you have a country that is a complete failure. The government is gone, the currency no longer exists, people don't know who owns what, basically everything is starting from zero. What do you do? Well, luckily some very smart people thought of exactly what to do, which is why we have the Washington Consensus. So named because it was formulated by the kinds of institutions that have their offices in Washington, DC. The Washington Consensus is basically the IKEA instruction book you use when you are trying to build a national economy from nothing but flat-pack components, and it has 10 basic instructions. Fiscal policy discipline, with avoidance of large fiscal debts relative to GDP, redirection of public spending from subsidies, especially indiscriminate subsidies, towards broad-based provision of pro-growth, pro-poor services like primary education, primary healthcare, and infrastructure investment, tax reform, broadening the tax base and adopting moderate marginal tax rates, interest rates that are market-determined and positive, but moderate in real terms, competitive exchange rates, trade liberalisation, the liberalisation of imports with a particular emphasis on elimination of quantitative restrictions like quotas, licensing and tariffs, liberalisation of inward foreign direct investment, privatisation of state enterprises, deregulation and legal security for property rights. Basically, put these things in place and you should have an economy. Now, some of these were easier to implement than others. Trade liberalisation, for example, started off slow between its former Soviet peers, but eventually Russia started trading its raw materials with the rest of the world. It also implemented a new currency in 1992, which it made exchangeable for the old Soviet ruble that came before it. A funny little side note was that the 1 ruble coin, worth less than 1 American cent at the time, was practically identical in size and weight to the 5 Swiss franc coin, which led to many Russians taking bags of these coins to hundreds of Swiss vending machines and buying trucks full of snacks that they would take back to Russia. I guess it didn't take them too long to embrace capitalism after all. That's not very important, but it is very funny. What was very important was the point about the privatisation of state enterprises. You might think, given examples like China, that opening up to international trade and embracing the free market was something of a cheat code to guarantee economic growth, at least in the short term. Unfortunately, that didn't really play out in Russia, and in the decade following the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia's GDP actually more than halved. The biggest reason for this was the botched privatisation of the nation's industries. In the Soviet Union, all industry was owned by the state, but the Washington Consensus calls for value-adding industries to be privatised. There are 2 reasons for this recommendation. The first is that it establishes a free market. You can't reform your economy on the foundation of capitalism if all of the biggest industries in the nation are controlled by the state. The second reason for this recommendation is because it can make the country a lot of money in a very short space of time. Governments all over the world sell public assets off to free up cash, and former communist nations theoretically have the most to sell off. Think of this as generating seed capital to launch a new business venture, only instead of it being a company, it's an entire country. Russia did have a lot of valuable industries, natural resource extraction being the big one, but there was also telecommunications, utilities and manufacturing. The only question became, who should this go to? The logical answer would be the highest bidder. But there are some problems with this. At the time, the highest bidder would have been companies from the West, and it was understandable that the new Russian Federation wasn't ready to stomach an American company controlling their oil fields just yet. So, most of these assets got sold off internally. The problem was that people emerging from a failed socialist state normally aren't flush with the kind of cash needed to make realistic bids on pieces of national infrastructure. The corruption that followed almost cemented Russia's fate for the following decades. Officials in charge of dishing out the nation's industries were paid off to award factories and mines to well-connected individuals, many times themselves, a family member, or whoever gave them the best bribe. This not only left major industries in the hands of a very small number of very corrupt people, but it also meant that the country didn't raise nearly as much revenue as it could have had this privatisation process been handled more fairly. These well-connected individuals, or oligarchs as they came to be known, not only ran these industries poorly, but they also took almost all of the money that they made from their dodgy operations and invested it abroad. This process was assisted by the Russian government's insistence on maintaining a high foreign exchange rate. Any money made within Russia by the oligarchs could be transferred to American dollars, or more commonly British pounds, at a rate higher than the free market would normally dictate. The Russian government paid a lot of money to maintain this exchange rate, but all it really did was help wealthy and corrupt Russian businessmen buy flats and football teams in countries that they thought were worth investing in. This capital flight meant that the government had a hard time raising money and had to rely on continued international borrowing. This all came to a head in 1998, when a failed war in Chechnya and the Asian financial crisis combined to give the new Russian Federation its first economic crisis. The government was no longer able to pay its debts, and the exchange rate fell sharply. Mismanaged industries were failing to attract foreign or domestic buyers, and companies weren't even able to make payments to their staff, leading to widespread workers' rights across the country. Foreign investors fled the country, further driving down asset markets and causing a run on the reserves of the Russian central bank. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund tried to intervene with an injection of $22 billion. These institutions were happy to provide support, not only because that's their core function, but also because nobody wanted this financial turmoil to push Russia back towards Soviet-style socialism. Unfortunately, and perhaps to nobody's surprise, it was later revealed that as much as $5 billion of that injection was stolen by connected officials as soon as the money entered Russia. But this sharp decline after a rather disappointing decade was something of a springboard for the Russian turnaround. Russian luck started to turn around after this crash for a few reasons. The first was that they didn't have that much further to fall. But on a more serious note, the currency lost 80% of its value practically overnight, which is terrible for the economy at large, but did allow for debts and unpaid wages to be paid back with relative ease. Russia was also a great beneficiary of the steady increase in oil prices that would be felt over the following decade. It was at this time that one Vladimir Putin would become president, succeeding Boris Yeltsin, who had fallen sick and handed the reins to his then Prime Minister. The new president oversaw a series of reforms that, in fairness, did do a lot of good for the economy, but his first order of business was put into action on the 31st of December 1999, and it was titled, "On Guarantees for the Former President of the Russian Federation and the Members of His Family." This ensured that corruption charges against the outgoing president and his relatives would not be pursued. Basically, it was a presidential pardon for the ex-president's corruption scandal, which conveniently also happened to involve Putin himself. Yeah, not off to a great start. Anyway, despite continued corruption, Russia did do well for itself over the next decade. Large industries became increasingly consolidated, but that meant that they were able to compete with their larger international rivals. The domestic market was the real winner though. For the first time ever, the Russian people had access to a financial system similar to what we take for granted in the West. The people were able to borrow money, find formal jobs, and use this income to support genuine businesses in the country itself. Yes, an enormous amount of wealth was still being disproportionately and perhaps even unfairly distributed to a very small group of people. But let's be honest with ourselves. It's not like that doesn't happen in our own economies, right? That's just part of being a free market economy. Well, more on that later. Russia also managed to get through the global financial crisis of 2008 relatively unscathed. Its banks were so new and unsophisticated that they avoided most of the problems caused by advanced financial instruments. They were, however, hit temporarily by the rapid decline in oil prices at the time. Nevertheless, by 2013, strong growth had resumed and the economy was more than 10 times larger than it was at the lows of the 1990 financial crisis. The new president was certainly controversial, but sometimes a struggling nation needs strong leadership to get it headed in the right direction. The problem was primarily who this prosperity went to serve, a point that became particularly apparent in 2014 with the invasion of Crimea. Following the shocking actions taken by the Russian government, the United States, the European Union, Australia, Canada, and Japan imposed sanctions on Russia. These sanctions did three things. They put a ban on the provision of technology for oil and gas extraction. They put limits on travel for international Russian citizens who were close to President Putin, aka the oligarchs, and it banned the provision of credits to Russian oil companies and state banks.
A fraction of a second ago, the electricity powering your lights, your air conditioning, your television, your refrigerator, nearly everything electric around you right now was water, gas, wind, or some other form of energy, potentially hundreds or thousands of miles away. If you flip a light switch in Los Angeles, that could cause a turbine in Washington to start spinning. Electric grids are considered some of the single largest machines in existence. They stretch across entire continents, but they're machines with absolutely zero slack. With water systems, for example, there's some extra supply in a storage reservoir at the treatment plant, and some extra supply in the pipes connecting the treatment plant to your home. Supply only has to roughly match demand, but that's not the case with electricity. Your lights, your TV, your microwave, everything plugged into the grid uses electricity produced just moments ago. For the sake of example, let's look at what it takes to turn on the lights at the public library in the small town of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Now, what makes the relatively straightforward task of converting natural fuels or phenomena into electric power difficult is the huge variability in demand from minute to minute and month to month. There are, however, some trends. On an annual basis, the peaks correlate to climate. January represents the winter high water mark as many homes and businesses turn on their electric heating, while July typically ranks highest outright as the country battles summer heat with air conditioners. The month-to-month variations are not that significant, though. The difference between the highest and lowest demand months is less than a third. Most of the variability happens across a given day. In January, all regions of the US observe a two-peak daily demand trend where electricity use spikes around 7 a.m. as people turn up their thermostats and fire up lights and appliances as they wake up and get ready for the day. Then, demand peaks again when people return from work in the evening and do the same. Meanwhile, in July, energy use is highest in the late afternoon or early evening, but this does depend on the region. For example, in the sweltering Southwest, usage peaks around 4 p.m., around the hottest hour of the afternoon when air conditioners have to work the hardest. In the more temperate Northwest, though, which includes Colorado and that Glenwood Springs Public Library, fewer buildings have air conditioning, so demand peaks around 6 p.m., pulled back by post-work use of appliances, lights, televisions, and more. These trends then get further complicated by holidays and special events. For example, on Super Bowl Sunday in the US, demand plummets for a few hours as people turn off the lights, stop cooking, and gather together at others' homes to watch the big game. This is all to say, when forecasting demand, utilities need to factor in the hour, day, season, location, and plenty more. Now, with whatever demand materializes, utilities then need to essentially instantly match supply. To do this, they layer different energy sources on top of each other. Often, the lowest layer is nuclear power. Nuclear power stations aren't designed to be able to turn off and on easily. It would take the better part of a day to shut down and start up again, so it's rather impractical to operate these in response to demand. In addition, considering how massively expensive their construction is, it would be economically inefficient to let these stations run idle. Therefore, they'll run nearly continuously for the entirety of their service lives, except for during planned maintenance. This means they provide the most stable supply of electricity 24/7. Colorado no longer operates any nuclear power plants, but it does have 6 of the next layer: coal power stations. Like nuclear, most of these coal plants cannot be fired up quickly, as they take some time to get up to temperature, so utilities will also run them essentially continuously. Coal and nuclear combined typically fulfill what's called the baseload. Their continuous production essentially equals the valley of demand. They'll make the minimum amount of power needed at a point in the day. So then, on top of that, utilities need production methods that can fire up and shut down far faster. They need to be able to produce the power to operate all those AC units in hot summer afternoons. The bulk of this job is completed by natural gas-fired plants. Of the 25 in Colorado, 13 of these stations generate using a simple cycle combustion turbine. This is the simplest means of turning natural gas into electricity. Much like a jet engine, the fuel is used to turn a turbine, which turns a generator, which produces electricity. More advanced natural gas power plants recover the hot exhaust to convert it into electricity too, but the startup process for these takes longer, so simple cycle stations are used for applications where speed is key. Most can reach full power within 15 minutes, making them an effective tool to respond to those short peaks in demand. Nuclear, coal, and natural gas are some of the more traditional means of generating electricity. The recent proliferation of renewable energy sources, though, has kickstarted a reinvention of this system of base load and peaker plants. That's because when wind and solar generating stations can make power, that power is essentially free, meaning there's essentially no additional variable cost to generate power once the panels or turbines are installed. That's not the case with natural gas-fired plants, for example, as the gas itself represents one of their primary costs. So this essentially creates a new bottom layer to the energy mix, but it's a bottom layer that's uncontrollably variable. One sunny, windy day could mean that a state has an excess of electricity when added to its base load sources, while one cloudy, windless day could mean that the peaker plants have to operate at full force. Solar and onshore wind power are now some of the cheapest sources of electricity, but because they rely on natural phenomena, they can't match supply to demand the way that the traditional nuclear, coal, natural gas trifecta can. Therefore, grids are being reinvented so that supply doesn't have to match demand, at least minute to minute. Of course, the way to do that is with storage, but storing electricity is not easy. The average American household uses about 30 kilowatt hours of electricity per day. Lithium-ion batteries currently cost around $130 per kilowatt hour, meaning one day's storage for one household would cost around $3,900 in batteries. And that's excluding all the additional infrastructure needed to make such an installation possible. Considering the average American household pays less than half of that per year in electricity bills, installing such a system grid-wide would be economically impractical. Nonetheless, Colorado has 4 battery electric storage systems, albeit at a relatively minor scale. The largest of which is used to power Fort Carson, a U.S. Army base near Colorado Springs. They charge up the 8.5 megawatt battery at night when electricity demand and therefore rates are low, then use the power during the day when the majority of the base's electricity use occurs. The system's savings should make up for its installation costs in about 13 years, and by the end of its practical lifespan, it's expected to have saved the Army about $500,000 in electricity costs. While such a system can make economic sense for large complexes that can invest in infrastructure that won't pay off for more than a decade, it's just not practical grid-wide, at least right now. Even if there was the battery production capacity to make a meaningful dent in the world's electricity use, the savings just happen too far in the future for most to consider such storage to be worth it. However, for entirely different reasons, in the coming decades, more and more people will be purchasing massive battery packs, the ones inside their EVs. With most forecasts suggesting that some third of new car sales in the US will be electric by 2030, a potential solution to the grid storage need could arise naturally. A Rivian R1T, for example, holds a 135 kilowatt-hour battery pack, meaning it could, theoretically, power the average American household for 4.5 days. While EVs typically take in electricity, little stands in the way technologically from them giving that electricity back to the grid. So the idea is that EVs could charge at night or when renewables are performing well, then supply some of that electricity back to the grid during the day while parked and plugged in. In exchange, vehicle owners would be compensated a small amount by the utility company. While the real-world, wide-scale economics have yet to be proven, especially in the face of battery degradation, this vehicle-to-grid concept could potentially play a cooperative role in the transition towards a greener grid. Now, the largest current battery electric storage system in Colorado, the Fort Carson installation, has 8.5 megawatts of capacity. Elsewhere in the state, however, there's a massive, different form of battery that can power over 10,000 homes at once. And it looks like this. Water is one of the earliest forms of energy that humans harnessed, and it still represents one of the best sources of electricity. Hydroelectric power is the best of both worlds. While there's certainly the potential for environmental damage from damming up rivers, the carbon impact is near zero, meaning hydro is green like wind and solar. However, it's also reliable. In theory, hydroelectric dams can start and stop making power in minutes, even if in practice a minimum flow is typically maintained, so they can operate like those natural gas single-cycle peaker plants responding to demand. Of course, there's only so much water upstream, especially in a place like Colorado, which is in the midst of a 20-year-long drought, but hydroelectric dams simply convert potential energy into electric energy. There's no reason why that process can't happen in reverse. That's what happens here, at the Cabin Creek Generating Station. When electricity's cheap, typically at night or when wind and solar are performing at their peak, the facility uses it to pump water to its upper, higher elevation reservoir. Then, when electricity is expensive and in demand, like in the late afternoon, it will start flowing that water through its turbines out into its lower reservoir. It's essentially a form of price arbitrage, but it's one that's already helping smooth out the peaks and valleys of wind and solar power production. Now, no matter how well supply is matched to demand, electricity is of no use to that Glenwood Springs, Colorado library until, of course, it gets there. Many have an image of power plants as something sitting just outside every town and city. While that's how the earliest grids operated, it's hardly the case anymore. Despite dramatic declines in the past decade, some 42% of Colorado's power supply still comes from coal. That means that nearly half of the state's electricity originates from, essentially, just 6 sites, the state's coal power stations. Therefore, the ability to effectively transport electricity over a long distance is essential. Now, what makes long-distance transmission tricky is simple. The further you send electricity, the more you lose along the way, typically through unavoidable conversion to heat. Meanwhile, the more centralized your electricity production, the less it costs. It's simple economies of scale. Therefore, the task of transmission is all about balancing these competing effects to find an equilibrium. Now, houses, businesses, and other buildings connected to the grid all use alternating current power. A big reason why this standard beat out its direct current competitor in the days of Tesla, Westinghouse, and Edison is because it's relatively easy to convert AC power between higher and lower voltages using transformers. What makes this crucial is that the higher the voltage, the less electricity lost during transmission. Specifically, a doubling in voltage quarters the power loss in transmission. That relatively simple voltage transformation allows for a more efficient electricity distribution system. Colorado's second largest power plant is this, the Craig Generating Station. It connects to some of the state's highest voltage transmission lines, 2 of which head due south until the town of Rifle. Now, these lines operate at 345 kilovolts, which means that, in theory, over the 75-mile or 120-kilometer stretch from Craig to Rifle, about 3.2% of the electricity is lost, a relatively minor amount thanks to the efficiency of high-voltage transmission. Other, more densely populated regions, which need more electric transmission capacity, have even higher voltage lines, all the way up to 765 kilovolts, the current highest voltage transmission standard in the US. Quite few of these lines exist in the US. There's one connecting Quebec to New York State, and then a larger system spanning between Illinois and Virginia. These can carry about 6 times as much electricity as the 345 kilovolt line between Craig and Rifle, and, thanks to their high voltage, see as little as 0.6% loss per 100 miles or 160 kilometers. That means that, in theory, assuming the infrastructure existed, a 765 kilovolt line could transmit electricity from New York to LA, and about 87% of it would still be there at the other end. That's why these high voltage lines are becoming more and more common. But what's even more efficient than transmitting an alternating current at a super high voltage is transmitting a direct current. Of course, the difficulty with direct current is that transforming it between voltages is more expensive than with AC, and for use in today's grid, it has to be converted to AC power, which is also expensive. However, compared to the absolute lowest 0.6% loss per 100 miles with the highest voltage AC lines, DC lines see as little as 0.45% loss per 100 miles. Therefore, when there's a need to transmit a huge amount of electricity over a long distance, the economics can work in favor of converting power to DC at its origin and converting it back to AC at its destination. Perhaps the most prominent application of such a system in the US is the Pacific DC intertie, stretching between northern Oregon and Los Angeles, California. In the summer, the temperate Northwest has relatively little power demand, but generates a huge amount of cheap electricity thanks to its hydroelectric dams. So, the Pacific DC intertie sends this electricity south to power Los Angeles' air conditioners during its hot summer. Meanwhile, in the winter, Los Angeles sees temperate weather and little need for climate control, so it sends its excess electricity north to the Pacific Northwest to power its electric heating. Phenomena like this demonstrate why creating a greener, more efficient grid involves a proliferation of long-distance power transmission infrastructure. It's needed to balance out seasonal trends and to bring power from where it can be produced easily to where it cannot. Back in Colorado, though, its relatively minor 345 kilovolt line from the Craig Power Station eventually enters this more populated area flanking Interstate 70. Here, there are a number of nearby towns that need electricity, but sending 345 kilovolts to each of these would not be efficient. That's simply because the higher the voltage, the higher the construction cost. A 345 kilovolt substation might cost $10.7 million, while a 235 kilovolt one just $7.6. Meanwhile, a 345 kilovolt line costs around $4.5 million per mile to build, while a 230 kilovolt line just $2.8 million. Therefore, even though the transmission losses will be greater, a number of substations around Rifle transform the electricity to 230 kilovolts, and then smaller, cheaper lines carry the flow west, south, and east, closer to its final customers. About 30 miles or 50 kilometers to the east, this line encounters another substation, which steps it down to just 69 kilovolts, and then another yet smaller line circles back towards Glenwood Springs. The power is then stepped down again to 12.47 kilovolts before a final transformer converts it to 120, 240, or 480 volts. The voltage is used by almost all buildings in the US, including the Public Library of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. In the early morning hours of August 22nd, 2021, the Maersk Essex pulled away from berth 402 at the port of Los Angeles, California. After navigating through the breakwater, the ship made a westward turn, beginning a 2-month, 17,000-mile, 27,000-kilometer voyage from America to Asia and back. This is, in the context of today's ocean shipping industry, a rather unremarkable journey on a rather unremarkable ship. Just 15 years ago, though, the Maersk Essex would have been truly extraordinary. You see, the Essex boasts a capacity for 13,092 20-foot containers, or TEU, 20-foot equivalent units. In 2006, the Zin Los Angeles entered service with a capacity for 9,600 TEU. This was heralded with proclamations of a new era for shipping, as the Zin ranked as the single largest container ship sailing the oceans. In summer 2021, though, the Ever Ace took its maiden journey from Asia to Western Europe with a capacity for 23,992 TEU, 2.5 times more than the largest ship of a decade and a half ago. As a point of comparison, that means this one ship could carry every single container the 100,000-person nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines received in 2020 at once, and then add Bermuda's annual container traffic on top of that. Now, this trend towards larger and larger ships is indicative of another major trend in the shipping industry: consolidation. Recognizing the incredible economies of scale in an industry founded on the principles of economies of scale, the largest container shipping lines recently worked to reap a cost advantage that their smaller competitors could not by aggregating a larger quantity of containers onto fewer ships. This is both a cause and effect of the fact that in 2000, the top 10 shipping lines controlled 51% of the global market, but now they hold 85%. Bolstered by historically low shipbuilding costs, Maersk, MSC, Evergreen, and others elected to order these new behemoth ships rather than buy or renovate used ships to operate on their busy Asia to Europe and Asia to Western North America routes. So a 13,000 TEU behemoth like the Essex, a record breaker in the wrong year, is now but a rather unremarkable workhorse of a ship fixed on a regular route from Los Angeles. After an uneventful 10 days traversing the Pacific, the Maersk Essex stopped at its first port of call, Yokohama, Japan. The stop lasted 8 hours as cranes unloaded containers from the Americas, then loaded more bound both east and westward. Soon enough, though, the Essex pulled in its lines, thrusted away from the dock, and carefully navigated its way out of Tokyo Bay. Once it reached open water, however, it actually slowed down slightly, for rather strategic reasons. You see, in 2008, in the early days of the financial crisis, shipping lines faced a perfect storm of circumstance. Shipping demand was rock bottom, and fuel costs were sky high. The lines had to innovate to survive, and so a working group at Maersk came up with a stunningly simple proposition: just go slower. You see, like most vehicles, ships are more efficient at slower speeds, but companies were always worried that operating a ship over a long distance below its designed cruising speed could damage its engine, a quick way to squander any fuel savings. Maersk proved this belief false, though, and so began operating many ships at 14 to 18 knots rather than 22. This proved financially advantageous. Most industry players observed 10 to 25% fuel savings on a given journey, and in time, going slower became standard practice industry-wide. Of course, when the shipping market's hot, lines will operate at higher speeds since they'd rather get cargo to its destination and pick up more containers sooner, but when it's not, it's a simple way to simultaneously reduce operating costs and remove capacity from the system when it's not needed. This is exactly what the Maersk Essex did after leaving Yokohama. With no need to get to its next destination quickly, it reduced speed all the way down to 12 knots as it meandered through the East China Sea, which doesn't seem like it'd be a notable practice, but slow steaming has been one of the most significant industry innovations of the 21st century. Given the slow pace, it took 5 days for the Essex to arrive at the port of Xiamen, China, where it sat for some 36 hours as thousands of containers were unloaded. In the afternoon of September 8th, though, it pushed off once again, ready to venture deeper into the Far East. On this stretch of the journey, through the South China Sea, the vessel passed closest to the country that most of its crew members call home: the Philippines. You see, with few labor laws regulating who can work on ships sailing in international waters, it's only natural that cost-conscious shipping lines look for staff from the lowest cost of living countries. In short, they look for those that they can pay least. Arising from a mix of culture, tradition, and education, the Philippines has established itself as the single largest source of maritime labor in the world. Some 77% of ratings, unlicensed, low-paid junior mariners that assist with some of the most physically demanding tasks, are from the Philippines. Overall, the industry, unperturbed by national boundaries, is incredibly international. A Danish-owned ship will be built in South Korea, registered in Panama, captained by an American, and crewed by mariners from the Philippines, India, Bulgaria, Russia, and beyond. The westernmost point of the Maersk Essex journey was here, the port of Vung Tau, Vietnam. It tied up to its dock on September 10th. These brief port visits offer most crew members some rare moments of continuous free time. As the cranes handle the work of loading and unloading the ship, the crew is typically allowed to leave the ship, see the sights, experience some nightlife, so long as they're back on board in time. However, because of the border restrictions imposed by many countries in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, this practice of brief short visits to foreign countries has become impractical or impossible, further toughening an already difficult style of life. So, after its 44 hours physically, but not practically in Vietnam, the Essex started spinning its propeller once again on September 12th, and the crew members went back to an endless routine on an endless ocean. Now, some of Vietnam's primary exports include shoes, clothing, and textiles. These are, typically, not very price-dense products. For example, a box of cheap shoes takes up a good amount of space, but might only sell for $20 in the US. However, the fact that a company can manufacture shoes in Vietnam, ship them across the world to the US, and still turn a profit on a $20 sale price is indicative of just how unbelievably inexpensive ocean shipping is on a human level. Before the tumult that COVID brought to the industry, shipping lines typically charged about $1,000 to carry a 20-foot container from Asia to the US. That 20-foot container could hold some 3,500 shoeboxes, meaning the cost to transport a shoebox 8,000 miles or 13,000 kilometers across the world from a port in Vietnam to one in California was about 30 cents. When people talk about ocean shipping enabling globalization, this is what they mean. The fact that transporting a shoebox quite literally to the other side of the world costs less than a single McDonald's chicken nugget means that location and distance are hardly factors in today's world of manufacturing. The Maersk Essex's next stop was Hong Kong, where it docked at the Kwai Tsing container terminal for 32 hours between September 15th and 16th. It then took a slow, meandering path around the territory, dropped anchor for 24 hours, then worked its way into the port of Yantian, located near the factories of Shenzhen. Now, with its capacity for 13,092 containers, there are, of course, 13,092 different spots where a container could go on the Maersk Essex. Naturally, in practice, it's far from random. Complex, expensive computer programs crunch a huge variety of factors to spin out the ideal storage plan for a given journey. To start with, there's the obvious stuff. You want, in this journey's case, the containers for Yokohama to be placed on top of those for Xiamen, so one doesn't have to unload Xiamen containers to get to the Yokohama ones when there. Then, the program needs to be sure that certain containers are in particular positions. Refrigerated containers need to be in a spot with a power supply, while those carrying goods with the potential for leakage, like animal hides, need to be placed in a spot where they can be easily accessed by the crew while underway. Meanwhile, other containers must not be in particular spots. This table displays the regulations for the storage of hazardous materials. It indicates that items that are dangerous when wet, for example, must be stored at least 6 meters away from radioactive substances, while corrosive materials must be stored in a completely different compartment of the ship from infectious substances. On top of these and a multitude of additional factors, the ship has to be roughly balanced, meaning overall, the storage plan is a massive game of 40 Tetris that only a computer can perfect. After 52 hours of implementing that plan, the Essex made a quick overnight journey up the coast to arrive back in Xiamen, where it made its longest stop yet. 56 hours loading a final batch of containers. This was also the last chance for the ship to load up on food and fuel before what would be by far the longest leg of its journey. Finally, just before 6 a.m. on September 24th, loading was complete and it was time to shuttle another payload of thousands of containers to North America. The Maersk Essex passed Taiwan, worked its way through the East China Sea, then threaded the gap between South Korea and Japan. After hugging the country's coast, it sailed through the busy bottleneck of the Tsugaru Strait and entered the cool open waters of the northern Pacific. The Essex entered American waters for the first time as it sailed near the Alaskan Aleutian Islands, but then exited the country's exclusive economic zone as its track started to trend south. After nearly 2 weeks on the move, the ship's path started to parallel the California coast until the Essex passed the state's Channel Islands and turned east. On October 6th, it slowed to a stop, dropped anchor, and then just sat. On October 7th, it did the same. Nothing more happened on October 8th, 9th, 10th. In fact, for the next 17 days, a longer stretch than its trans-Pacific journey, the Maersk Essex sat on anchor within sight of California's largest city, waiting for an open berth. The time finally came on October 23rd. After 62 days, the Maersk Essex arrived right back where it started. Berth 402 at the Port of Los Angeles. Now, the Port of Los Angeles is located right next to the Port of Long Beach, and while the facilities are technically independent from each other, they take advantage of shared infrastructure like roads and railways. Combined, the complex handles about 40% of all container cargo coming into the country. This is because, like most of the industry, ports benefit hugely from economies of scale. You see, for imports coming from Asia, it rarely makes sense to send ships to the East Coast, despite that being the side of the country where the majority of the population lives. That's because that would require routing through the Panama Canal, whose largest set of locks can only accommodate ships up to 14,000 TEU, smaller than many new container ships, and even then, transit fees are well into the hundreds of thousands, getting a slot can be difficult, and routing via the canal extends journey times significantly. That's why most Asian imports are offloaded on the West Coast, but the US really only has 5 major deepwater container ports on the Pacific: Long Beach, Los Angeles, Oakland, Tacoma, and Seattle. Located in by far the largest metro area on the coast, the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles have naturally evolved into the busiest as they have the greatest access to labor, transport, and infrastructure. These 3 factors are the most important for ports because, after all, nobody's shipping things to the Port of Los Angeles, they're shipping things through the Port of Los Angeles. It's all about getting cargo containers from the ship and onto onward transportation as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, the port itself is essentially the landlord to a number of private companies that actually run each container terminal. For example, this facility is run by Houston Terminals, this one by Everport Terminal Services, this one by Phoenix Marine Services, and this one, where the Maersk Essex started and finished its journey, by APM Terminals. Now, once the Essex was docked, the first step was to physically remove containers from the ship, which was accomplished with these massive cranes. Each typically unloads 30 to 40 containers per hour onto trucks that move the containers to a temporary storage location somewhere in the terminal. Then there are 3 possible onward transportation methods. First, they could be loaded on a smaller ship or barge that moves the containers to a smaller nearby port, although this is rare in Los Angeles compared to a place like the Pearl River Delta, where there are plenty more water access population centers and industrial areas. Second, they could be loaded onto freight trains. This direct access to railways, the cheapest method of land-based transportation, is, in fact, a major advantage of the Port of Los Angeles. By far, the most common method of onward transportation from the Port of Los Angeles is, however, trucks. They enter through the terminal's gates, hitch up to a waiting container, then drive it to its final destination, whether that be on the other side of the city or country. So why is it that the Maersk Essex had to wait 17 days just to unload its cargo? What part of this system is broken? Well, in short, all of it. There's no one factor contributing to the Asia to North America supply chain slowdown, but rather the system is just overloaded. Most indicators suggest that trans-Pacific shipping demand is up about 25% compared to the pre-pandemic baseline, which isn't a massive increase, but it's sort of like congestion on the highway. Traffic is an exponential problem. When one lane is closed on a busy 4-lane highway, your journey takes more than 25% longer. Stopping and starting takes time that adds up and slows the overall flow down exponentially. This is why ramp meters work. They prevent excess traffic from entering a highway, keeping it at capacity and flowing freely, so even if it takes longer to get on the highway, each person's overall journey time is less. It's the same situation with ocean shipping. It's a system with a capacity, so when it's overloaded by 25%, the slowdown is more than 25%. Once a container is offloaded, it's placed into a sprawling terminal filled to the brim. With an increase in traffic, more trucks than usual are waiting in line to get through the terminal gates to pick up their cargo, which means picking up a container takes longer, which means a truck can't get back to the terminal as quickly, which means there are fewer trucks available to pick up containers, which means more and more containers stack up in the terminal. With containers leaving the port less quickly, there's less space for new containers, which means it takes longer to unload ships, which means ships are having to wait longer to get into the port, which means there's less shipping capacity since journey times are longer and ships can't get back to Asia to pick up a new load as quickly. Meanwhile, all the congestion means that terminal operators are restricting or prohibiting shippers from sending empty containers back to Asia, which means that shippers in Asia are struggling to find containers to use, which means that they're having to buy new containers, which pushes up their shipping costs. And then all this supply chain chaos means that shippers are sending goods earlier, which increases demand, which furthers the supply chain disruption. It's not so much a vicious cycle as a vicious web. Chaos compounding chaos. This is what happens when disruption hits an industry designed to be extraordinarily standardized. A system so reliant on economies of scale that the world's largest economy has to rely on 5 interface points with the world's largest manufacturing hub. It's a perfect system, a system responsible for many of the revolutions of the last century, but systems reliant on perfection are those most vulnerable to disruption. For now, though, the cogs keep turning. The Maersk Essex is out there, somewhere between California and Vietnam, shuttling another load of containers from continent to continent.